Basic Brewing Radio is brought to you by the American Homebrewers Association, a network of more than 40,000 people dedicated to the appreciation of beer, cider, and mead. Join at homebrewersassociation.org for recipes, brewery discounts, and other great resources. homebrewersassociation.org. Welcome to Basic Brewing Radio for Thursday, September 30th, 2021. I'm James Spencer. Here at Basic Brewing Radio, we're all about home brewing. This week, we visit the now award-winning Natural State Beer Company. We talked to Basic Brewing alumnus Mark Smith and his son Ryan Smith, who are still celebrating after taking home Great American Beer Festival Gold for their maibock. If you go to basicbrewing.com, you can find archives of our audio and video shows, and if you go to basicbrewingshop.com, you can find our DVDs and our brewers' logbooks. You can follow me on Twitter and Instagram at Basic Brewing and find our show page on Facebook as well. If you want to support us financially, check out patreon.com/basicbrewing, and many thanks to everybody who's helping out in that way. If you go to patreon.com/basicbrewing, you can see a long list of stuff that you can access if you sign up as a supporter. This Friday, I'm planning to post a bonus video to financial supporters of my fermented cherry tomatoes and also fermented habaneros. We had a bunch of tomatoes and peppers this year, so I decided to salt them up, mix them with some onions and garlic, and ferment them separately, of course. Then I combine the results in a pasta sauce that I'm planning to write up as a recipe for subscribers. I made the recipe on 2 occasions, and it turned out very tasty both times. It was a hit with our dinner guests. Also, Susan and I bottled my version of a Belgian-inspired double, into which I added a pound or 450 grams of Hungry Jack pancake syrup. You may remember that Steve and I like the Hungry Jack beer in a recent dark sugar sampler, so I decided to go big, or at least bigger, with a 5-gallon version. And in this one, I used Pilsner as the base malt. We had a bit of red wheat, Crystal 120, and Special B, and bittered it with Saaz hops. It's going to generate some skepticism out there, but it sure tasted good going into the bottle. I fermented that beer with B45 Gnome from our friends and sponsors at Imperial Organic Yeast. I did a no-chill and pitched the yeast around lunchtime the next day, so chilled overnight and pitched the next day around lunchtime, and my airlock was bubbling before bedtime. With 200 billion cells in each easy-to-open package, I like to say my stir plate is dusty because I don't use it anymore for making starters for moderate gravity 5-gallon batches. And the seasonal yeast from Imperial right now is A40GF Bubbles, a traditional cider strain that's beautiful for fruit-based fermentations, just in time for, fresh cider coming off the orchards here in North America. The clean profile of Bubbles, especially when it's fermented at the lower end of its temperature, allows the nuances of the fruit to shine through. And it's produced on 100% gluten-free media. Ask your local homebrew store about A40GF Bubbles and all the other wonderful Imperial organic yeast strains, and check them out at imperialyeast.com. That's imperialyeast.com. On a side note, I was walking through the grocery store the other day, and an entire end cap of the cereal aisle was taken up by monster cereals, Frankenberry, Boo Berry, and Count Chocula. And by reflex, by instinct, I wanted to grab up a box of each of them to brew a weird beer, but I resisted. Well, that Count Chocula beer that I brewed way back when was really good. And the other 2 I brewed, they weren't too shabby either. But, it's ground that we've covered. Maybe next year. Maybe I'll come up with a new idea to use those cereals next year. If you'll remember, 2 years ago, we visited with Mark Smith and brewer Will Sonneman up at Natural State Beer Company in Rogers, Arkansas. And back then, they were just getting started and didn't have much on tap. But now, in addition to having lots of tasty beers on tap, Natural State has a Great American Beer Festival gold medal. Mark Smith, welcome back to Basic Brewing Radio.
Oh, thank you, James. It's great to be back on.
And it's been 2 years, turns out.
2 years, yeah. Yeah, we last talked right before we opened, as I recall.
Yeah, and you didn't have a full lineup yet.
No, we didn't. We were struggling to get 5 or 6 on tap, I think, at the time. So,
And who have you got with you here?
This is my son, Ryan. He's one of the brewers in the back that takes care of brewing all the beer and stuff and making sure we have nice, clean lagers. You want to say hi, Ryan?
Hey, what's up? Pleasure to be here.
Yeah.
Man, a few words.
Yep.
Yeah.
That's good. So since we've chatted, 2 years have gone by. We've had a major pandemic. Is
that what that was? I noticed a drop. I just didn't know. Yeah, no, absolutely, yeah.
So how has the past 2 years been around here? I mean, it seems like I follow you on the socials and all that, and it seems like you've been cooking along regardless.
Well, thanks to the folks, the patrons that come and visit our establishment here. We barely got up on plane before COVID started. We opened in November of 2019, and really March 2020 is when we were officially shut down, I think the day after St. Patrick's Day. I tell you, we had a tough time with being shut down, as most places did. But people came out in droves to buy packaged liquor to take home, thank goodness, and we got by with cans and things of that nature. But it's been really hard to measure where we should be versus where we were, because we weren't anywhere before.
Yeah.
No, and also with the social media side of things, Kat, my wife, has been taking care of all the social media, and she's been doing a fantastic job with it. And a lot of this is owed to her to get people in the door. She's made it interesting. She's made it unique and clever posts that bring people in. But it all goes back to just the people that have come in, regardless of whether we were closed or not, to pick up 4-packs to go. Then when we opened, they came in and supported us. The community has been phenomenal in all this.
And you've recently, thanks to your recognition at the Great American Beer Festival, now that you are an award-winning professional brewer. Yeah,
it's pretty surreal, because I remember going to a couple of GABFs with you a long time ago.
Many moons
ago. Maybe 2005, 2006. I can't remember, to be honest with you. And going and tasting those beers and seeing the people that had won those medals, and just how cool it must have been to have experienced that, and how prestigious an award it is. And then all these years later, to be able to experience that ourselves, Will, the head brewer, Ryan Smith, the brewer, and myself were all there at the event, at the award ceremony, to be able to go up on stage and accept it. It was living in a different world. It was crazy. We're still flying high. We really are.
Yeah, it's still hard to believe, definitely.
Yeah, I mean, it's crazy, and we were really excited to be able to bring it back to Northwest Arkansas. To be able to bring that medal back to help encourage beer tourism in Northwest Arkansas and all of Arkansas.
And you won a gold medal for your maibock, and I think it was the only medal in the state.
Yes.
Yeah. So congratulations.
Well, thank you. Yeah. It's like I said, still crazy. There were 88 entries. We entered 2 beers in that category, actually. The Bock category takes Doppelbock, Bock, and Maibock, and the Maibock won gold, and we were. It was funny, because it was the last. We entered several beers, but that was the last category that we possibly could have won a beer. And we were going through the bronze and silver. I'm like, oh well, it was fun. It was great to be able to experience all this. And then when we won, it's like, holy cow! I might have used a different word, but it was like, it's like holy cow, we won. So yeah, it was good. It's I guess if nothing else, it's one of those things where. We must be doing something right, and that's the nice thing, because there's been a lot of hard work and effort put into getting this up on plane, and like you were saying earlier about COVID, all the struggles trying to get through that and keep this place open and keep people employed, and the outcome of that, to be able to take home a medal on top of it, is just amazing.
So Ryan, talk about that beer. Talk about that Maibock.
Okay, the maibock, it was a very special beer for me. We knew some of these categories, especially the German light lager categories, were going to be very saturated, just because that's kind of what's going on in the beer scene right now. And whenever I came to the maibock, I just knew that was a special beer. I was telling everyone before we even went, if we were going to win a beer in one category, it was going to be the maibock. The maibock was going to be the one to take it. I just felt really confident with it. It was a really good beer. We gave it plenty of time to lager, and we're just excited to brew it again and give it back out to the public.
Now we've got 8 beers here. Is this the maibock? Is it?
No, that's the crazy thing. It's the only beer we don't have right now that we entered. It's a seasonal beer.
Yeah.
We typically make it in the winter, and then we serve it early spring. So and that's probably the pace that we're going to be on again for it, because we're going through an expansion right now. So right now our brewing operations have been on pause until we get some more cellaring equipment.
Oh wow!
So. It might be December before we brew it, and it'll probably be ready in March to right about the right time that it should be released to be drank. But yeah, we've had a few requests for that beer, believe it or not. But it's one of those things. The beer, and you were talking about the beer before. The style of the beer. And I think that may be where the question you were headed towards. It's a box strength Helles, right? It's a strong Helles. So it's comes in about 7% alcohol, and it's just a malt forward, clean drinking, surprisingly refreshing for something as high alcohol as it is, because it finishes really dry. Finishes very, very dry and smooth. So. It's one of those beers that works really well when it's been cold for so long, and it starts getting patio weather, and you just want something, but it's still a little crisp outside. It works out really well for that. So,
and we are out here on the patio, and there are other customers. You may hear them in the background, and you've got a shade pulled down so that my beers don't get skunky here while we're talking. So what should I start sampling here?
We normally would say. You should start with our Greenway, which is our lightest offering. That's what the GW is there. It is our flagship beer, has become our flagship beer. It's named after the Razorback Greenway. That kind of goes back to when we were shut down. 80-90% of the customers were coming off the Greenway to come in and get 4-packs. It wasn't people driving in cars. It was people on bicycles, strollers, walking, coming and getting the beer. And that beer, there's not a whole lot to hide behind. It's it's our most approachable beer. It's our that's the beer that's going to get maybe somebody started on craft beer that may not like craft beer because they think it's just too over the top, it's too hoppy, it's whatever, too much flavor. This is the beer that might be able to get them convinced that craft beer isn't so scary.
Yeah, it's really good. It's really clean. It has a nice malty, kind of grainy character. It's not overly hoppy.
Yeah.
So it is very approachable.
Yeah.
Now, is everything here lagered? You said it. Even though I've seen some non-Reinheitsgebot things on the social media, it seems like I've seen some fruit in some beer.
That may or may not have happened. Yes. In this flight, the only beer that you have there that's not lagered or a lager is a Hefeweizen. Okay, so that's an ale, but the Greenway's definitely been lagered, and all these beers too are also the Reinheitsgebot. There's no adjuncts. It's all the 4 main ingredients, and that's it. So we try to stay as true to that as we possibly can, especially with our normal lineup or what we call our natural selections, which are 9 beers. We really try to keep those true to the traditional German brewing styles and brewing methods.
And how does that? I mean, obviously you're able to produce a lot of beers, but how does the lagering fit into your production scheduling? I mean, maybe Ryan could talk about that. How does that, taking the time to put those, the extra time to put those beers out? How does that work with your lineup?
Well, okay, so basically. Kind of what it comes down to is a lot of breweries are ale-focused breweries, and they try to do grain glass in about 3 weeks. Like, that's just not practical for us. I mean, the only beer where we can get it out in roughly 3 weeks, maybe more like 4 weeks, is the Hefeweizen. But with lagering, basically after fermentation's done, we just we don't package it right away. We give it just... usually about 3 or 4 weeks minimum after fermentation's been completely settled, and we just kind of let it sit there, and there's not much we need to do. Like, lager is German basically meaning to age, so we just kind of let the beer make itself. Like it always makes the beer taste softer, and it just... That's what kind of makes us different than like a lot of the other places. We really try and lager it for as much as we possibly can.
Mm-hmm. And that I imagine that you can tell the difference between a beer when it's green or when it's fresh, and then when it's done. I mean,
right.
What is most impacted? Is it the hoppiness? Is it the maltiness? What are the flavor characteristics that most change during that time?
Yeah, I'd probably say for the most part, like the maltiness. I mean, overall, like whenever a beer is sent over to a bright tank or a lager tank, it's not completely transparent. Like, it tastes a little bit maltier. There might be some more yeast characteristic, but whenever it gets sent over to a lagering tank, like the yeast that's in it kind of goes back into solution and helps to clarify it even more, making it brilliant and bright, and making it a lot softer tasting, making the maltiness just just overall softer. It makes it taste a lot more crisp. It enhances the color. It just makes for a better, just a better overall beer.
Mm-hmm. It really increases the drinkability of the beer more than anything else. When the yeast drops out, the hops can shine sometimes, especially the delicate hops. So almost all the hops we use here are a European hop of some kind, and they're not. They're not the West Coast hops. They're not punch you in the face with citrus flavors and things of that nature. They're more delicate and floral and more subtle, and giving it that extra time to lager does help some of those flavors come out.
So where do we go next?
All right, so you did the Greenway. I would probably go to the Pils. Yeah, that's on the top right there.
Nice, very pretty. It's a little more copper color.
Yeah, a little more
than
copper color.
The Greenway.
Yep.
Oh, that's nice. That's right up my alley. It's there's more bitterness. It's more crisp.
Mm-hmm.
The first one was to use your word, Ryan, softer.
Yep.
And sort of more approachable. This has a more pronounced bitterness. But at the same time, that maltiness does still come through. It's just as clean as a whistle, which is what you want for from a beer like this. So is this just Pilsner malt?
It's not just exclusively Pilsner malt. We use Carapils copper, which is kind of what gives it that extra dark straw color. It has a little bit higher level bond than the Pilsner. Let's see here, and I believe for that one we also use a little bit of Crystal 60, I think. But what's giving it that extra color is the Carapils copper that we use.
Huh. It's nice. So it is. You're a veteran of competitions, in the amateur world.
Yes. Yeah.
You I think had a trophy room full of medals and other things that you won. So so you're not a newbie to the competition world. Are all these beers sort of dialed in to those kinds of guidelines, or what's your guiding influence in formulating the recipes?
We certainly try to hit the center mark or bullseye of all the styles that we brew as much as we possibly can. I'd say the only thing that we don't hit is most of our beers are probably lower on the ABV scale than if there's a range, we're going to be on the low end of the range for ABV. We really want to have a more drinkable beer. For instance, our Marzen's like 5.8, and I think Marzen's can go up to almost 6.5, 6.8, something like that.
Wow.
So our Marzen's on kind of the low end of the scale. But in terms of color, IBUs, everything else, we want to be literally right in the center of the style. We're not trying to necessarily create new styles with most of these beers. We've messed around with some of that before, but really we're trying to hit the traditional BJCP guidelines of all these beers.
It's fall, and that means it's time for a delicious seasonal offering from our friends and sponsors, Ricky and Kelly from Groenfell and Havoc Meaderies up in Vermont. Wild Hunt is a limited edition spiced blood orange and cranberry fall seasonal mead, available now to order online at groenfell.com. Ricky, the mead maker, tells me this year's batch is really, really good. Wild Hunt is a balanced blend of honey, cranberry, blood orange, and spice, brewed in honor of the ceremonial meads of 18th century Northern Europe. And since it's a seasonal, once it's gone till next fall. Just imagine serving a spiced cranberry blood orange mead at a holiday gathering with your family and friends. And at only 6.2 ABV, it's sessionable enough to maybe have a couple while you're at that family dinner. Maybe you need a couple. Order yourself some Wild Hunt along with other delicious honey-based beverages at family-owned and operated Groenfell.com. That's GROENNFELL. And I've moved on to the Marzen.
Marzen, yes.
Now is can this be called an Oktoberfest, or are they interchangeable? I've seen them kind of listed as a Marzen / Oktoberfest.
I think certain individuals have a different. I have a much more opinionated of what we should call it, what we shouldn't call it. I call it an Oktoberfest or a Marzen either way. Maybe I'm just not intelligent enough to know the difference between the two, or really dig into the styles. But it's. I think what the confusion comes in, a lot of people think of a fest beer as an Oktoberfest beer. Like it's that's the beer they would traditionally serve in Munich now, as opposed to 50 years ago. It's not an Oktoberfest. It's a fest beer. It's a lighter beer.
Right.
It's a little bit more hoppy. It's more towards a Pilsner than it is a true Marzen. And I think that's why we call this a Marzen rather than an Oktoberfest, because I think people get confused that, the Oktoberfest I had, last year was much lighter than this. So,
and they might, if you serve this in March,
yes, yeah.
then they might, and you call it an Oktoberfest, they might get confused and think it's old beer.
Yes, exactly. But no, we call it a Marzen / Oktoberfest. I think is what we have up on the board right now, and I think a lot of people relate to the style Oktoberfest more than Marzen. They just don't understand what that means necessarily. But no, it's what I understand as a traditional Oktoberfest, which is we're just using 3 malts for this beer. We're not using any specialty malts of any kind. They're just all base malts. And it's Pilsner, Munich, and Vienna in different quantities to give it different colors. And we've messed around with the recipe several times over the course of I should say I have messed around with the style. We've only brewed this beer twice here, and I think it's the same recipe both times, but I've been tweaking the recipe for 15 years trying to find the right amount of drinkability. I mean, the key with the Oktoberfest in my mind is, there needs to be some malty sweetness there. Mm-hmm. Yeah, not sweetness, but more malty sweetness, not sugary, but it also has to finish dry and wanting to have more. And that's, I think we've come pretty close with this beer. I'm not going to say it's perfect. None of our beers are, but we're getting closer with this one. And this is one that, this is the one of our beers that we've aged the longest. This beer was made in March, and it has been lagering for the last 6 months. And so along with, the German traditions of lagering in caves way back in the day, so it does make this beer supremely drinkable, which is
it's really nice. There's another commercial example, Lost 40's the Hunter is one that I go to. Theirs is, I like it quite a bit. This is smoother. It has maybe less of a bite, but which is not better or worse. I think it's just different. Different interpretation. This is delicious. I would have sworn there was just a teeny bit of caramel malt in there, to give it that kind of sweetness, but there's not. It's all base malt.
Yep, absolutely. Yep.
It's nice. It's really again, it's well done. It's clean. It's approachable, which is again, I think, what you're after.
Absolutely.
I would. If my local liquor store sold this, I would. I'd be buying this.
I need to do a GoFundMe for a canning line. That's what I need to do. That's what I need to do.
Yeah. So delicious again. So are you? Despite the pandemic, are you on track as far as your business plan? I mean, do we see a canning line in the future or?
Business plan, that's funny. When we opened this place, me personally, that's all I ever wanted to do, is just be able to have a sustaining business where we're making local beer, where people can come out and try it. Beautiful location, we're hitting all the marks for that. Beyond that, where do we go from here? And I don't know. I mean, canning line would be great, but we don't have the space for it here. So we would have to look at a secondary location. That may or may not be in the cards. I don't know. There's still some things we have to capitalize here before we probably really look into that. But there certainly has been questions, and I think there's demand there for some of these beers to be in cans and be in retail markets. But at the same time, that's a whole different ball game.
Yeah, it's a very crowded space.
Very crowded space. You're fighting for not just tap handles, but you're fighting for shelf space, and then you're also fighting distributors that may or may not take care of your product. Mm-hmm. And one of the things that one of our founding kind of our DNA was where we wanted to try to, as much as we could, control the experience of the beer, because we wanted to let the beer shine. And the minute it goes out the door, even in the crowlers that we sell, we don't know what happens to it. It could sit in somebody's dash in their car for 3 weeks in the hot sun. Then they finally decide to cool it down
and take it to a party, and people say, "This is nasty.
Yeah, this is terrible." But those are things that you have to really weigh. But it's at the same time, there's certainly an attraction to getting the product out there to more people, Little Rock markets and Fort Smith and the rest of the state. But we're just going to have to wait and see what happens over the next couple months anyway, maybe a year, and go from there.
Where do we go next?
All right.
And I do have a designated driver. Susan's over there.
Let's see here. I would probably do the Vienna next, do just with the Marzen. The Vienna is going to be very similar to the Marzen.
Yeah.
A little bit lighter in color, not quite as malty.
It's a little more. I want to say earthy.
Okay.
Than the Marzen, maybe. But there's also like a honey character as well. Is my palate blown already, or is it?
Everybody tastes what they taste, man. I mean, it's one of our more popular beers. People like the Vienna. It's one of those we kind of between the Vienna and the Bock, because the Marzen isn't on tap all the time, but people really like to go to the amber lager for a lot of things, and in this case I think it hits the mark for that. The earthy tones are probably coming from the hops being used. Ryan, do you remember what hop is used in the Vienna?
Let's see here. For the Vienna, I'm pretty sure we just use Magnum. It's not a super hoppy beer. The Vienna is something that I would say is it's the everyman's beer out of any of our beers. If you're not certain what somebody likes, and they just don't want a light beer, they kind of want something that's right in the middle of a road, I would say the Vienna is the way to go. It's a nice, very drinkable, amber colored lager.
Where does the color come from?
That'd be from the Vienna malt mainly. With the Vienna, it kind of makes sense that the Vienna malt is kind of the base malt there.
It's really nice.
Thank you.
Again, super clean. You can tell that there's no butteriness in any of these. There's no diacetyl. There's no. It's all cleaned out by taking the time to lager these.
Absolutely, and diacetyl rest on the production side of things, that's something we take very seriously. With all of our lagers, we always do 5 days diacetyl rest at 60 degrees to ensure that there's no diacetyl characters that'll come forward in the beer. And we've never had that problem before.
Hey, don't give away too many of our secrets now.
That's what this show's about.
Yeah. Just write up a recipe on a piece of paper here.
No, I mean we that's completely joking, of course. But you talk about the clean beers, and Will, the head brewer, he said if nothing else, we make clean beers. I mean, even if maybe the recipe could be tweaked to make a better Bock or a better Schwarzbier or whatever, but he's not going to let a beer with diacetyl go out of here. He's very susceptible to diacetyl. He can taste it a mile away. Me myself, I'm not as susceptible to it as he is, but yeah, he can. He's he's one of those those spidey senses he has. And
I think that's my palate is sometimes dead in some areas, but I think it's pretty good on diacetyl. I can usually smell that butterscotch or buttery character. Where do we go next?
I think let's go to the Bock. The Bock is So
we're progressively going darker, but this is kind of a ruby red, beautiful color on that one. So talk about this beer.
Well, this beer is going to be currently probably one of our most malty offerings. And you're not going to have a whole lot of bitterness coming into this, just enough to kind of cut the malty sweetness so it's not overpowering cloy. But it's certainly going to be rich and full flavored, full body. It's going to be like you said, that ruby color. It is a sexy beer in a glass. There's no doubt about that.
And these are shapely glasses as well.
Yeah, so, they're hourglass shape. Yeah,
you've done some market research.
It's all part of the deal. I mean, it's all part of the experience. I mean, tasting a beer is not just about tasting the beer. It's about seeing the beer, smelling the beer. It's about the surroundings that you're in, and that beer might not taste as good at home as it does here, just because of the experience that you're having here, and just because of you're overlooking water, you're relaxing, and normally we have some music playing, but we're not right now because we have this thing going, and it's all
because of me.
It's because of you, right? It's because
you're
killing the you're killing the vibe here. But it's all everything here we want to do is additive, and even down to the glassware, we want to try to get as traditional as we can with it, but at the same time, we do have some issues with. The glassware we've had previously, we had some issues with it breaking quite a bit, just because of the shape of the glass, and it's not very durable. So there's, you have to make concessions sometimes.
Well, this is delicious. It's a darker ruby red color. Where does that come from? Surely there's some specialty malts in here.
Let's see here. The grain bill on the Bock. I'm not super familiar with that one off the top of my head, but basically the main contributor to any of the color on our beers is always going to be the malt. We stay true to German style. We just mainly we use water, grain, hops, and yeast. So like any particular color or color characteristics is going to come from a malt.
Mm-hmm. So there are no adjuncts.
No, sir, no adjuncts.
So there's a bockiness. I can't. I don't know how to describe it besides that. But there's a maltiness. Help me, Mark.
I call it the Eurofunk.
The what?
Eurofunk. It's just kind of a lot of yeah. It's got. I know it's just hard to. I mean, if you've had some beers in Europe or if they come overseas, it's got this. I don't know. It's not really a bad flavor at all. It's just. It's. I don't know. I've always just called it. Eurofunk. I don't know why, but it's
maybe after a couple of those.
Maybe, yeah. Well, it's a bigger alcohol beer for sure. But it's I don't know. It's hard to describe, like you said, but it's when you get that real that malty sweetness, and again, it's not sugary sweetness; it's malty sweetness.
Right.
It's yeah. I think you have to train your palate to know the difference, and it just takes some time and effort to do that. But it's a rich bready, like dark, like toast flavors mixed with, like dark fruit and
it has like raisin notes at times.
Yeah, or plum, stuff like that, and they all just mix together to have this. Oh, great!
That fly's having a good time.
You won't drink much.
There's a gnat in your natural state beer.
Yeah,
there we go.
Gnats included.
That's included. Yeah, natty steak. Yes,
that is a gnat with good taste.
Yeah.
But at the same time, it's got that kind of malty sweetness, but then it's not a cloying sweetness, and then it goes away at the end. Again, it's a nice clean. You get a clean palate at the end of it. You don't feel like you need to take another drink of something else, water or whatever, to get rid of that. So, where do we go next?
Where do we go from here? We might as well.
Schwartz beer. Definitely Schwartz beer.
Schwartz beer.
I concur.
It is dark, yet it is a bit. It's not completely opaque. It has the ruby red characteristics. It's like we're stair-stepping down all the beers except for the first two. All these beers kind of, you can tell, are in the same sort of family.
Yes.
Right.
But they just have gotten progressively darker down the way. So talk about this beer.
Okay. Yeah. Well, this is our darkest offering currently, and it's a dark lager, Schwartz beer. Schwartz meaning medium black, and it drinks surprisingly light compared to its color. It is one of those beers that can fool you. A lot of people, don't be afraid of the dark type thing. This is one of those beers. It is refreshing. It is. I mean, this is a beer you can drink in the middle of the summer, and people look at you like, "What are you doing?" But it's actually really refreshing. It's not. It doesn't drink near as dark as it looks.
No, it's not a porter. It's not a stout. It reminds me a little bit of New Belgium's 1554.
Yes, very similar.
In that it is a dark beer, but it is very clean, and it's not overwhelming with the roastiness. Although there is some of that in there.
Yes,
it is definitely not a porter. It's not a stout. It's if you closed your eyes, I don't know that you would guess that it's as dark as it is.
Yeah, I think you might think it's more like the color of the Vienna, maybe.
Right, right. There is some maltiness. There is a bit of sweetness, but it's balanced by the bitterness. So what are the malts that give it that color? Where does that color come from? If it's not giving you the dark roastiness, what's giving it that color?
You want to give this a shot, Ryan?
Yeah, I got this. So basically, the main base malt in our Schwartz beer is going to be Munich Dark. So basically, it's the base malt, but it has a much higher level bond than any of our other base malts, like with our IPL or our Greenway, or pretty much any of our light beers. Pilsner is going to be the main base malt, but with our darker beers, and especially with our Schwartz beer in particular, like Munich Dark is going to be the main malt that we're using for it.
It's really, and so that's where the darkness comes from.
Well, we also use black Prinz.
Okay.
Which is
I was going to ask if there was a debittered.
There's a debittered malt in there.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. Yeah. Very nice.
Yeah, that's more of a specialty malt. We use black Prinz and some chocolate, which also kind of gives it a little bit more of that roasty characteristic. But I'd say most of the color probably comes from the Munich Dark.
Very nice. Yeah, I wish I had asked it before you said that. Then I would have sounded smarter. But yeah, that Black Prinz, Steve and I have played with that in the sampler series, and we liked it quite a bit because it gives that the darker notes without any kind of roastiness or ashiness or any of the kind of bitter characteristics that some people associate with that. But very nice. I could drink any and all of these all day. Let's take a quick look into the mailbag. Danny from Boonville, New York. If it was in Arkansas, we'd say Boonville. Danny wrote after hearing our latest episode of the Tulsa Craft Beer Invitational. Danny says, I absolutely loved your latest episode in Tulsa. I felt like I was there, minus getting to taste the beer part. Sounds like a really good time with lots of great friends. Well, thanks, Danny. It was great to go to the festival, especially since we got to see our friends Desiree and Dave from High Gravity in Tulsa. High Gravity is a big store with tons of inventory of ingredients, kits, and equipment, but it's also a family-run operation. And, when I walked in the door, Dave's daughter Amanda was there at the counter to help us, and Desiree and Dave were running around getting things set up in the parking lot for the festival. But it's always a real welcoming experience at High Gravity. And if you're not around Tulsa, you can have that High Gravity customer experience by visiting highgravitybrew.com. They've got lots of ingredient kits that have been tested with patrons at Pippin's Tap Room there at High Gravity, and you can use the Build Your Own Beer page, which is a really clever feature. If you've got recipes of your own, you can choose from tons of ingredients just on that one page. And, of course, you can take the pain out of propane with an awesome Warthog electric system or standalone controller like I have. And you can save $75 off your Warthog purchase by using the code EBC75BB. Check it all out at family-owned and operated highgravitybrew.com. That's highgravitybrew.com. So we got two left.
All right. I'd go with the IPL. The IPL is going to help kind of cleanse your palate. It's our hoppiest offering.
The India Pale Lager?
India Pale Lager, yes.
which is a made-up thing.
It is
right?
Totally made up. Yeah. I mean, this is not a traditional beer that you'd find in Deutschland, Germany, but this is a beer that we thought was important because we do have people come in all the time. I want your IPA. I want this, and I want that. And it's like, well, we don't have an IPA, but we have an IPL. So we wanted something that would help cater to some of the people that like hops. These hops are all traditional European hops as well. I believe this one is Calista and Ariana. Is that right?
Yeah, Calista, Ariana, and one of our dry hop additions, I believe, is Mandarin Bavaria.
Yeah. Oh, this is nice. It's so nice. Now, I've had your IPA, so I know that you can brew
yes.
at least on the homebrew scale
yes.
a really really good IPA. This the hops are certainly less fruity. They're more of a again maybe earthy, but it's brighter than earthy.
Yes,
it's more of kind of a kind of a, I don't want to say grassy because that's a bad descriptor, I think, but maybe hay.
Yeah.
Maybe, but the nose is really nice. It's nice and fresh and hoppy, non-European hops.
Yeah.
There's a nice, there is some fruitiness in there, though. But it's not like, West Coast tropical fruit. It's like more of a...
I call it like lemongrass or something like that.
Yeah, I would go with that. Yeah, I think that's, yeah. I think that hits it right on the head. And again, it's super clean. the malt bill obviously is a lot more simple than the previous beers, right? I mean,
right, yeah. I mean, basically, like I said, with like of a Greenway or of a Pilsner, like the base malt on that, it is going to be mainly Pilsner. I mean, with IPL, what we really do and what makes it stand out is the fact that it is our hoppy beer. Like what we have a few more hops in the Schwartz beer than we do in any other dark beer, but the IPL, what really makes it is the hops and the hop additions that we use. We use exclusively German hops in making the IPL, so it's never gonna have like that super fruity taste. But I like what y'all were saying. Like lemongrass is probably the best way that I would describe it.
Yeah. And what's your if you're lagering for a long time, what's the hopping, especially the dry hopping strategy? And Dad hands
yeah. This is fun. So basically, what it comes down to is that we just try and do it in the most safe and sanitary way possible. That's like the most important thing. It's kind of like the key factor.
But does it come at the beginning of the lagering phase or the end, or
no? It comes pretty much after primary fermentation is done or getting pretty close to being done. Definitely before we cold crash it. But basically, we'll slowly blow down the tank so not to disturb the beer. We'll get a bucket of sanitary solution. We'll make sure that the bucket that we're pitching the hops with is clean and sanitary. And once there's no residual pressure left on the tank, we just dump the hops in there and quickly seal it up so it's exposed to atmospheric air for the least amount of time possible.
Right. Well, it's wonderful. It's nice and fresh, and this has got to be a kick, Mark, to be working with your son. I've got two sons of my own. Or we've got two sons of our own, as I'm glancing over at my wife, Susan. I didn't do it all by myself.
Yeah.
But it's got to be fun working with your son.
Oh yeah, absolutely. It has been really pretty awesome for him to take an interest in something that I have an interest in beer, and he's taken a shine to it. I mean, he's just totally passionate about it, like I am, which is not something I didn't know if it would happen or didn't happen when we hired him here. But I did want, at least one of my children to. And I shouldn't say one. There's, Matthew, my other second oldest son. He actually works here in the summer in the front of the house. So it really has become a family affair for us. Even my two little ones will come in and they'll help out from time to time when they can. My youngest one helped set up chairs for Oktoberfest this last weekend.
Oh wow! Well, there you go.
So, but yeah, it's going back and talking about. The metal just for a second, to be able to go up on stage with my son, the person that brewed the beer that won the medal, and accept that medal on stage with him, it's right up there with wedding days and births and things of that nature. There's no doubt.
Yeah. Well, excellent. I've skipped on to the last beer of the flight.
Yeah, guess what it is?
It's a Hefeweizen.
Yeah, you're right. Yeah,
I think I could have told you without the notation.
Yeah,
because I'm sipping this and it's got tons of spice.
Yeah,
I mean, there's not. It's more of the spicy, the clovey side than the banana side.
Yes.
And I don't know if that's on purpose or not, but say it is because it's delicious. But I've tried to brew Hefeweizen a few times, and I've just never been able to get those yeasty phenolics. I've never gotten the yeast to express the either side, the banana or the clove, in the way that I wanted to. But this is delicious. It's if you had told me that there was cloves in here, I'd take it there's no cloves in here.
No. Everything coming from that beer is the yeast. I mean, it's a beer that lets the yeast shine. There's not much hop in there. There's obviously a malt bed to lay everything down on, but all the flavors are coming from the yeast that's chosen and the temperatures at which it's fermented. And that's a beer where, in the summer months we can change it. We can brew it, or we can ferment it at a higher temperature and coerce some other notes out of it. Whereas in the wintertime, we're kind of stuck. I mean, we can only go as warm as the ambient air temperature is in the back of the house. So, it does have a tendency to change a little bit over the course of a year because of the temperatures the yeast are exposed to. But yeah, we've done a lot of playing around with the hef and yeast temperatures, and I like it. I like a banana and clove and a hef, but I'd rather have it lean a little bit more towards the clove than the banana. I agree. I don't necessarily want to get it all the way over into the bubblegum stage. I've had some beers that are like that, and some hefs that are like that, and it's not that they're terrible beers. They're not. It's just not my preference of what I like to drink.
I like the banana character with the darker beers.
Yes.
So it's like banana bread.
Yes.
You get the dark malts, and then you get that banana character in there.
Yeah.
I like the banana part of it with the darker beers than
almost like a Dunkelweizen or something like that.
Yeah. And Susan, what do you think? She says really good. She likes the spice. She's sitting far away from me today.
I'll take that as a win.
Yeah. And she may finish that sample.
Yeah.
We may be sticking around here longer than we...
Hey, that's all right, man. Beer's on me today.
Woohoo! Well, back up the car. Do I have to drink them all here?
Yes, you can only leave them in your stomach.
Oh, well, this is... I was about to wrap up, but we lost Ryan. He ran in to check on something or to do his duties.
I'm not sure. I'm sure he'll be back.
He started talking to the old guys.
He's like, this is boring. I'm out of here. But,
no. He sounds like he is really engaged in the activity. He sounds like he's picked it up. He sounds like he knows what he's talking about. It sounds like he's having fun, and I'm really happy for you. That I congratulate you on your success, on your recognition. I'm sure there's more coming, and this is a wonderful thing, and I can we go back a long ways.
We do
on this show, and this is our 17th year, which is crazy. And there are a few success stories along the way where homebrewers that came on the show grew into professional brewers and then have found success, and I'm glad that you're one of them.
Well, thank you so much. I mean, we throughout the process of learning so much about beer, I always found your podcast to be a great area or resource to learn about beer. You've had a lot of great guests on, everything. I can't think of a topic you haven't covered.
Me neither.
I mean, and if you do, I'll let you know.
Please.
We're probably running out of material at this point. I don't know.
If you want to come back on, do that.
Yeah. But it's been a great resource to further my career and further my education about with beer.
Well, you're very kind. You're very kind to say that.
Yeah, I mean,
you didn't have to. I wasn't digging for a compliment or anything.
Well,
but,
I know.
And Ryan's back with
Ryan's
a beer.
Back.
Now we know why he was gone. He went to get another beer. So.
I also went to use the restroom, but I mean, let's go get another beer. Let's go with that.
He's an honest man.
He's an honest man.
Absolutely, nothing to hide over here.
Oh well, your timing is perfect because we're just wrapping up.
Hey Ryan, can you tell us about the program you're going through right now, the education that you're getting right now?
Yeah, absolutely. So I'm taking the intensive brewing science and engineering program for working brewers over at the American Brewers Guild.
Oh wow!
And basically, it's kind of like a roughly a half-year program. I think it's 28 weeks. and it tells me everything that I need to know for basically opening a brewery from scratch.
Wow.
Yeah, so there's obviously like a lot of stuff that's already been done and set up for me, like a lot of the important figures and stuff. Like I was blessed enough to already come into a brewery where that was figured out for me, but basically it's gonna make me the best brewer that I can possibly be. And if I wanted to, like in just roughly like 7 more weeks, I'll have all the knowledge I need to basically be able to
open up a brewery.
To open
put your
up a
dad
new brewery
under
if I wanted.
with your competition.
Not yet. He's got a few more years. Yeah, but it's an amazing experience. I mean, I've learned so much in such a short period of time. I mean, I started working back here when I was 22. I'm 24, but between doing this and going to school, like we have home brewers come by all the time, and they'll like ask me questions that I would have had no idea how to answer like 2 years ago. It's a very amazing, awesome, and humbling experience. I'm just blessed to be able to say that I'm a part of it.
Well, excellent.
That's right.
Yeah.
Is the program intense?
Well, the I in the program means something. I'll say that much.
Yeah, I can imagine. Yeah.
Well, that's excellent. You get to in addition to the on-the-job experience, you get to learn some things and bring them back here and make the brewery stronger and make even better beers. So congratulations.
Absolutely. Thank you. I appreciate it.
We're expecting big things from you, Ryan.
No pressure.
No pressure or anything, yeah. I intend to deliver. I'll say that much.
All right, Smiths. I appreciate the hospitality and look forward to seeing where you all go next.
Well, thanks, James, for having us on.
Yeah, thank you. It's been a pleasure.
Well, thanks again to Mark and Ryan. Susan and I had a fun time up at Natural State. The weather was nice out on the patio overlooking the water there. And the paved Greenway trail system, which I think it's like 37 miles of interconnected trails through northwest Arkansas, it was literally a couple of feet away. You could just feel the breeze off of the bicyclists as they went by, practically. Not really, they're not that close, but we had some nachos from the food truck that was there, and I forget the name of the food truck, but it was really good. But thanks again to Mark and Ryan for the hospitality and taking the time to talk to us. And we were able to say hi to Will there while we were there. If you have brewing questions, show suggestions, or just want to say howdy, write to James at basicbrewing.com or just fill out the contact form on basicbrewing.com. And please don't forget to tell us where you're from. Check out our mobile-friendly shop at basicbrewingshop.com. Thanks to everybody supporting us through our Patreon page. Special goodies coming your way. Check that out at patreon.com/basicbrewing. That's all until next time. Until then, thanks for listening, everybody. I'm James Spencer. Production help for Basic Brewing Radio and our website is provided by Kelly Dodson. Basic Brewing Radio is a production of Active Voicing. Talk to you next time, everybody. In the meantime, stay well and stay tuned. So long.